I'm your host, Stephen Vanover. Welcome to NFL Draft Talk here on the Sports Talkline Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. As usual, we have NFL Draft Analyst Extraordinaire and professional dog walker, Connor Livesay. Welcome to the show, sir.
What's going on, guys? Glad to be back this week.
It's always good to have you back. You know that. And today is Philadelphia Eagles Draft Review. Another NFC East guy. And wow, they had a pretty good draft, I think. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of picks. They used some of those picks to move up in the first round to draft the first guy we're going to talk about. But I think the thing they got with the money they had to spend on those picks, it was a pretty good draft for a team that only got 5 players in a 7-round draft.
Well, you know, for another NFC East team, they did something that the Dallas Cowboys also did. They picked a guy with a premium pick that should not help them this year, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if Jason Peters and Lane Johnson are healthy in 2019, you would hope that Andre Dillard wouldn't see the field. But the truth of it is Jason Peters is getting up there in age. Lane Johnson isn't a spring chicken either. So both of those guys are getting up there in age. And Jason Peters has had his fair share of injuries. We've seen Arcega-Whiteside, however you want to pronounce his first name. Everybody calls him Whiteside, the swing tackle for Philly the last few years, come in and struggle at times. So I think this might have been we understand that Peters is going to suffer some injuries. He's getting up there in age. Let's upgrade at swing tackle, and then in a few years we'll have our left tackle of the future in Andre Dillard.
Well, yeah, those Philadelphia tackles, they're not going to be getting any better. They're only going to be getting older, correct?
Yeah, and both of those guys are getting up there in age, like we said. And Peters has had his injury problems the last few years, multiple different injuries, different levels of the body. So the older you get, the more that body tends to break down on you. And then once that happens, you need to start looking at a replacement at a premier position at left tackle.
Okay, well, now Dillard comes in the game because Peters goes down, and he's been doing a lot of that lately, you know, to be frank. Well, maybe not a lot, but more than he ever had previously in his career. What does Philadelphia get with this guy? I understand what they're trying to do, but is this a plus pick?
Yeah, you watch Peters play, and Peters is such a solid left tackle all across the board. He's a good run blocker, good pass blocker. He's a big guy. He looks big. He's a really big, beastly left tackle, where Dillard's more of a finesse guy. He's got some decent size on him. But his footwork, his athleticism as a pass blocker is what makes him such a good pick. The way he's able to get out in space, get to the second level in the screen game and in the zone running game is what's going to make him such a good player at the next level. But he's not going to be that great at the point of attack in the run game. He struggles with power at times. We saw that at the Senior Bowl a lot of the times. The bigger defensive ends would rush him with power, with bull rushes. He'd struggle a little bit. But when it comes to just working defensive ends with speed off the edge, Dillard's one of the best left tackles in this class due to his footwork and lower body athleticism.
Yeah, so when you look at quickness and quick twitch, which is something that you can improve a little bit, but you really can't teach, this guy has it, and then he's going to get in that NFL strength and conditioning program, and that generally has a pretty good effect from the college level, doesn't it?
Yeah, weight programs, especially after the first year, because the first year you're really just adapting to the playbook, getting the game plan and getting to know your team, your coaches. Right. After that first year, you get in the weight, these things, so you don't have to really focus on the day in, day out, the way the business works.
And also their body is peaking and everything, yeah. So that's a nice time for it to come together. So the one thing that he is lacking should be coming to him naturally over the next year or two, right?
Yeah, and he's got some technique things that he needs to improve on with his hand placement, just with some of his weight distribution at the point of attack. Sometimes he just relies too much on that flexibility in his lower half, and he kind of his pass sets could get a little lazy, and then he gets overpowered with counter moves and bull rushes. So he's got some technique things he needs to improve on as well, but the foundation is there for a really, really solid left tackle at the next level. And I think that's what Philly was envisioning when they traded up to get him. They saw Peters' age, Peters' injury history, what could happen to that team when the left tackle goes down. We saw Carson Wentz, Nick Foles struggle a lot when Vitae came in and didn't play as well. So they wanted to bolster the strength of their team, which is their offensive line, and they did that with their first-round pick.
Well, anytime you get a good draft pick in the pit, it generally helps your team. I agree. It looks like it will be here. Hopefully it won't help them too much this year, but he may very well be a pivotal player for them, depending upon injury. What I'm excited about for the Philadelphia Eagles, man, and I am so excited about this player and to see what he can do in the NFL, and then to send him to a team like the Eagles where he's not going to be asked to be a bell cow back. I think his versatility can really come to the fore. And I'm talking about the running back from Penn State, Miles Sanders. What is your take on this guy?
A lot of people thought Miles Sanders was the best running back in this class because of that versatility, ability to catch the football, and his ability to just hit the home run once in the open field. He had a really bad fumbling issue at Penn State. He really didn't take care of the football at all. That's probably his biggest weakness. He put the football on the ground at an astronomical rate. So that's a big issue for him, is just taking care of the football, not putting it on the ground. If you put the football on the ground, you're not going to play at the next level, no matter how good you are. If you fumble, you turn the ball over, you're going to come off the field. But as far as his vision, his athleticism as a runner, and then his pass catching skills, he was up there at the top of this class. He's a very talented guy. Didn't get a lot of playing time at Penn State throughout his career because of Saquon Barkley, who went in the 4th overall pick for the Giants last year. So this was his breakout year for him, who was able to be the bell cow back for Penn State, and he did not disappoint whatsoever. He had really good numbers. But you really love the athleticism with Miles Sanders. He runs with so much burst, with so much explosiveness, so much contact balance, thanks to that athletic ability. But then what he can do in the passing game as well, just catching the football, making defenders miss in space. He's very talented, very versatile, and he's just got to clean up those fumbling issues if he wants to stay as the bell cow in Philadelphia.
And at 215 pounds, he's not a little guy, is he?
No, not at all. He's a big guy. He's got the big thighs, the big glutes. He looks good in the uniform, and then he plays with great athleticism as well. Spider charts right there we're looking at. Nothing eye-popping, but you can just see that everything is solid. That's about halfway filled out all the way around. That's what you like with some of these running backs. You don't want to see the guys who are way up here, way down here at certain, agility drills. He's solid.
Yeah, the spikes where it's like, up in one and then totally down in the other. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. That's a solid spider graph right there. That's going to tell you that you're getting a really solid athlete that has solid vision. The thing I like about him, he's just so tough to bring down. He's not a bruising back. He's not a big Jerome Bettis style of back, but he's so tough to bring down because of that contact balance.
His power balance, which is how I refer to that, his ability to stay with power while in balance. Yeah. And he's excellent. I mean, he's very, if you'll excuse this, I don't mean to say he's going to be, but to me, he's very Emmitt Smith-like. When he gets hit, he keeps this low center of gravity, and he just shifts and moves.
Yeah, and I just don't think you can underestimate his receiving skills either. Philadelphia runs a lot of screens, a lot of wheel routes out of the backfield, and he's a guy that's going to come in and do those things.
He's scary.
We saw them win a Super Bowl throwing a touchdown to Wendell Smallwood a few years ago when they won their first Super Bowl, and getting a receiving back like that can catch the football down the field, in the backfield, and make some guys miss and hit those home runs. That's becoming a new trend in the NFL, getting those guys that can just go out, catch those 6, 7, 8 yard little hitch routes out of the backfield and take them to the house.
He is a fun guy to watch, and I think he's entering an offensive system. If you're a fantasy football nut, are you putting this guy on your radar for next year, drafting him?
It's tough. I don't like putting the Philadelphia running backs on that radar for me. I mean, I'm not a fantasy football expert by any means. I just play to play. But they always use, they always got the Ajayes, the Corey Clements, the Wendell Smallwoods, Josh Adams last year came out. So they always just have 3 to 4 guys that get carries no matter what. Darren Sproles was there again last year. So it's tough to buy a lot of stock into him as a fantasy guy because you never know who's going to come out and take carries from them because they always seem to have 3 or 4 really solid backs on their roster that catch the football, come in on third down. So you would think so, just with the way Philly's offense works is they seem to have multiple guys that they like to use.
It's going to be tough to call. Fun to do, man. Okay, Jose Arcega-White, I believe I'm saying it right. And this guy in the second round, I mean, they have totally reconfigured their wide receiver room. And this guy goes a long way towards doing that, doesn't he?
Yeah, I wasn't as big as a fan of JJ Arcega-Whiteside as a lot of people, because I kind of think that at the next level, he's going to be a vertical threat, and that's going to be his job. I just don't see a guy who's a really, he's not a very nuanced route runner. He struggles with the nuances in that. He struggles sinking his hips at times, struggles getting in and out of his breaks. Just doesn't look like a super athletic dude in his legs to break in and out of routes. Selling routes with his headgear, his shoulders. But he's a guy that can get down the field. He's a former basketball player, so he's got length, he's got size, he's got speed. He can get down the field. His ball tracking skills are phenomenal. So he was a threat in the red zone, probably the best red zone wide receiver in this draft class because of his ability to just go up and get the football, track the football through the air. But I think that's going to be his MO in Philadelphia is, playing in the slot. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. So put him in the slot, testing the field vertically. And as you know, they have Deshaun Jackson back there, Alshon Jeffrey back there. So they're going to have multiple guys who can get down the field, make plays down the field with their ball tracking skills, speed, and athleticism.
Well, you actually, you use this term a lot, and I get it, but a lot of people don't, about the ability to high point a ball. It's not a matter of just being able to jump high, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, high point in football is timing more so than your vertical getting up. So high point in football has everything to do with timing, jumping at the right, because you can jump higher, but if you don't time the route right, you're going to be on the way down as the DB's going up.
And so as you're running down the field, possibly looking over your shoulder occasionally at a ball that's coming in, you have to adjust your route if not at top speed, near top speed, and somebody's banging into you, so you've got to adjust for that. You've got to protect the ball, box them out, and get ideally both hands on it. Should be easy, right?
Yeah, definitely not easy. He does it well. Another thing he did well is he doesn't create a easy separation because he's not a freak, athlete. He's not super fast. Right. He's fast enough. He's big enough. He's strong enough. But his ball tracking skills are solid. And the one thing I really like with him is he always shows the ability to show late hands and late eyes. So he'll be tracking the ball, but he's not actually looking like the ball's coming to him until it's in his breadbasket. And that makes the DB not get his hand in there or grab.
They have to teach guys to do that. I mean, Michael Irvin said that's one of the things he learned is you don't reach for that ball to the last possible moment because the DB is watching you, right?
Yep, and those late hands and late eyes can be just a key thing at the next level to give yourself an extra second to get that ball, get to your hands, your chest, wherever you're using to catch that ball. Late hands and late eyes are some of the best things you can use as a red zone, especially in the red zone, because guys a lot of the time are defending with their back to the football, and they're just reacting by throwing an arm up or jumping in the air. You see a lot of red flags in the red zone. But those late hands and late eyes are so good in that area of the field because it just gives you that half second to adjust to the ball and bring it in without having an arm, a back, or a helmet in your way.
Well, when you're 6'3", 225 pounds, you take up some space. So, yeah, you are a red zone threat. That makes total sense. But now, in the fourth round, they went and got themselves an edge rusher, a guy you and I are both supremely excited about, Shareef Miller. Excuse me. Yeah, I really don't get this. You and I both had him rated several rounds later. What were they looking to do here? Was this a panic pick? Did they just run out of guys to pick already? What happened?
Well, they love guys from Penn State. They've drafted a lot of guys out of Penn State in recent years, very close to them. So they probably have a lot of scouts, a lot of coaches who spend a lot of time around the facility. They're probably close with that coaching staff. Their second-round pick, Miles Sanders, was for Penn State. So they went back to a Penn State guy in the fourth round, and Shareef Miller. I wasn't a huge fan of his because he's not a pass rusher. He's more of a run defending, rotational defense. I just don't know where he's going to play at because he's not big enough for me to hang out on the edge and be a stud against the run like he proved to be at Penn State. But he's also not flexible. He's not explosive enough to get after the quarterback from the defensive end position. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. I actually really liked his ability to play as an inside linebacker. I know that sounds crazy, but I think that's something he could do well because he does good when he's moving forward, but it's when the changing directions.
Makes sense to me. Right. I mean, I had him rated as a very good collegiate defensive end and that's how I view him because I just don't think that his skill set other than his work ethic. I mean, he definitely seems like a guy that did not take plays off. Okay, I like that. But I did not see explosiveness. I did not see an incredible bend where he could get around and like, wow, you can win with that move against some guys. I don't see a move that he has, a go-to physical attribute, a brain function, anything that he can go to and say, I can win with this at the next level. Do you?
No, and that's what it, his count. He doesn't really have many counter moves as well. So his whole MO is pretty much just rushing straight at the chest plate. And he's powerful. He's got some strength. He's got some power to his rush ability. But that's why I kind of was like, man, I think his best position would be a position, bulking down a little bit, losing a little bit of weight, and being a big middle linebacker that can be a two-down guy that can really be a force against the run.
Only in professional football is bulking down an actual term that people can nod their head and go, yeah, okay, I get that. Okay. Stronger but lighter. Stronger but lighter.
I don't know. When you look at him in person, he doesn't look like an edge rusher because he's kind of got like a beer gut almost. He looks strange, but
now that sounds like a quarterback, old school quarterback. Okay, all right.
I don't know. He wasn't a good view for me. I had him as a 7th round guy, just a guy who I think's got a rotational, solid run defending, ability to his game. But I just don't
good guy.
Offer much as a pass rusher. And I think with all the bodies they have at defensive end with Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, Vinny Curry, Josh Sweat, who I think is going to have a big year, Joe Austin. They just have a lot of guys there. So that was a questionable pick for me, but they might have a plan for him, and he could end up being awesome.
Well, as Grandpa said, he's a good egg, but of course the hen's ass is full of them. All right. Now we move on to another pick that you and I are doing this over. All right. And that's the QB, Clayton Thorson, a fine guy, Northwestern. I don't understand the pick in the 5th. I don't understand what they're doing. I see their depth chart. Can you explain this?
No, there's teams in the NFL who believe in taking quarterbacks on day 3 every year. They're a team that's definitely explored that idea with Nate Sudfeld in the past. I think they actually signed him from Washington, but they're always trying to bring in young quarterbacks to develop them. If one of them hits, you either one have an extraordinary backup, you two have a guy who can push your starter, a guy Carson Wentz who hasn't been able to show he can stay healthy. So this could be your Nick Foles, maybe, if you hope that he can pan out to be that. Or 3, he develops into a very solid starter, and then you trade him for future assets. We've seen that happen before with like Jimmy Garoppolo. I know he didn't go late, but it was still a quarterback that never saw starting playing time. So teams that believe in doing that, and that could just be something that front office.
Well, we're going to go with that because the alternative is they're trying to convince the New York Giants that they can pick a better quarterback than Dave Gettleman can. That's all I got hanging on there. I don't get that. It's confusing, but overall,
the NFL really did like Clayton Thorson. He wasn't a guy that I liked at all. But I know that there was a lot of teams who did view him, who thought he could go in the 2nd round.
He's got the measurables, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he's got the prototypicals.
That's right. Yeah, they like his size. He does have a good arm. He had a really good first year at Northwestern, but never really grew off that year, and actually, kind of diminished as his career went on. So
hey, David Carr was a number 1 draft pick. A first-round draft pick, and a much better announcer.
Yeah.
All right. It is just getting drafted by no means is anything. It is an imperfect science. And actually, it's art. It's not science, isn't it?
Yeah. It's these quarterbacks are hit or miss no matter if you take them at number 1 overall or number 200 overall. So teams that believe in taking them and trying to develop them, I guess you could say that Philly has a knack for developing quarterbacks with what they did with Carson Wentz, with what they did with Nick Foles. I mean, before he got to Philly, he was a journeyman who no one wanted. He gets to Philly, he wins the Super Bowl, takes on another playoff.
Actually, he had one fantastic year, just an unbelievable season. And then that got him to the Rams, and he got the contract, and he disappeared, and his confidence went to crap again. And then they brought him back, and like you say, look what they did with him. They got his confidence up again.
And even, we saw Nate Sudfeld a few games throughout the, some late season games. It didn't really matter, come in and play pretty well. So You never know. They could develop him. He could turn into the next Jimmy Garoppolo, and we'll come back to this podcast in a few years and go listen to what those idiots were saying.
And that's a pretty interesting thing, because if Bill Belichick makes this draft pick, everybody's going, man, is this guy that good? Could he be that good? But because the Philadelphia Eagles doing it, you and I are sitting there going like, what? But it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a traits pick a traits pick at a premium position. That's what I'll put it to. It's
all right.
Quarterback's the best position. That guy's got solid traits. Let's see if we can develop him into something.
Well, I don't take away from them for that pick, because I, like you, am aware that, hey, certain teams take quarterbacks over and over and over. They do it regular, and hey, that's what you do. Overall, I look at their draft, and some people like to look at a draft and go like, oh well, if you don't have 7 picks, you can't have a good draft. Like, no, I disagree with that, because UDFAs are just as good as 7th rounders, and oftentimes better. What I like to do is I like to look at the first 3 to 4 picks that you make, and man, I tell you what, I think they did good. What do you think?
Yeah, if I had to give them a grade, which I don't like,
you do,
grades, but if I had to give them a grade, I'd give it a B-. You got 5 picks. I think you're getting a future starter in Andre Dillard out of those 5 picks. I think you're getting a starting running back in Miles Sanders, and I think you're getting a very solid, at least a very solid rotational wide receiver in J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who's going to come in, probably catch 5-6 touchdowns for you a year, put up 400, 500, 600 yards a year, and that's solid. With 5 picks, you're getting 3 contributors, and that's all you can ask for.
Okay, two caveats here. Okay, in the future, not too distant future, all right, 3 to 5 years, they now have a starter at left tackle that is a plus left tackle. Well done there, okay? But Miles Sanders, after X number of years, does not get a second contract because of his fumbling problems and is passed on. And in the 3rd round, they get what they drafted. With their 3rd pick, they get what they drafted, which is a player that's going to be a rotational wide receiver for him. Then how do you grade this? A C?
Yeah, a C plus. If you get a solid starting left tackle at the back, traded up to get him, but you get a solid starting left tackle that turns into a brink of an all-pro player, Pro Bowl player.
In the 20s. They did that like 21, 22, something like that.
And they traded up to get him, but that's fine. Houston was really gonna sit there and probably take Andre Jones. They traded up in front of him, and you gotta like that. And again, I think Miles Sanders is going to be a solid starting.
But now let's say Miles Sanders solves those fumbling problems, becomes their bell cow back, not just a rotational back, which is what they've been doing, but what they try to do with Jay Ajayi. All right, and they give him that role. Then would this make it an A level draft?
Yeah, if you're getting 3 starters out of a draft with 5 picks, that's a home run every time you look at it. I think if you get 3 starters with 7, 8, 9 picks out of a draft class, you're doing an awesome job drafting. So that would give them an A plus. If they get a starting running back, a starting left tackle, and a starting wide receiver with 3 top 100 picks, and that's it really, because their 4th round pick was pretty late. They got a guy who could be a rotational guy, and then their 5th round pick's a 3rd string quarterback. You really got to love that draft. And A plus at that point, because
even if the QB goes to the Ryan Leaf School of Quarterback Improvement, you're still okay with those first 3 picks if they pan out.
Yeah. Of course.
All right, that's a heck of a job by the Eagles. Bottom line, they're getting a B in the draft. And when you're near the top of your division, if not at the top, it's arguable. I know the Cowboys won it last year, but hey, I know Eagles fans that will argue with that because due to the injury concerns, et cetera. But regardless, they are in the conversation. When you can get graded a B with a possible A, you've improved, haven't you?
Yeah, for sure. They definitely set themselves up for this draft class to be a key class for them in the next few years, with Dillard taking over as the left tackle, Sanders taking over as the starting running back, and then Arcega-Whiteside playing a big role in offense as a receiver in the slot and outside. So that's a great haul to have with your first 3 picks, and then you hope that Shareef Miller can slide in and do some things as a defensive end, and then Clayton Thorson could possibly develop as a backup quarterback. And with that draft class there, with some of these UDFAs who are probably going to make the team and contribute in some sort of way, that's an awesome class for the Eagles.
Well, that's pretty darn exciting, man. Before we sign off here, Connor, why don't you tell people about how they can find you on Twitter and about what we're doing to continue covering this draft before we move on to the 2020 draft.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Connor NFL Draft, and we're going to keep hitting this every week with obviously finish up the NFC East, so we'll be doing the Redskins next week, and then we're going to move on to some of these other divisions as well and look at all these draft classes, talk about a lot of these guys who are drafted, how they're going to contribute, the roles they're going to play in year 1 and in year 3 and 4 like we did today. So we'll be talking a lot more about the 2019 draft class, the teams they were drafted to, their roles in years 1, their roles in their rookie contracts, and really just giving out this draft class and trying to figure out how these guys are going to do in the situations they were drafted in. And then here soon we're going to start diving into some 2020 guys and get you familiar with those guys, because it's it just happened, but before you know it, that draft will be right around the corner as well.
It's amazing how quickly NFL Christmas comes, my friend. I love the way you do that. And for everyone out there, hey, depending upon which social media platform you're watching us on, if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure and give us that subscribe and hit that little bell for notifications. On Twitter, be sure and follow us if you're not already, and retweet us out there so other people can see what you're doing. On Facebook, you know what to do. You know we love those likes, and repost us. Hey, come on, we need that love. Thank you, everyone, for being here, taking time out of your day. And until next time, listen like you play with intensity.